But then, of course, when you realize that the way I'm treated is the way other women are treated, that are vocal on issues that are important to women, then it stops surprising you. So I'm exactly being treated the way many women human rights defenders and activists are being treated. And my position as a special rapporteur actually didn't shield me against those attacks, which is something maybe I had expected.
Yes, I find you have such a unique position in terms of being contacted by so many women from all over the world. And I wondered if getting insight into such a wide variety of women and women's issues, how changed your perspectives, or if you feel like you see something in terms of do you feel like you have a different perspective now on women's lives in the world today than you did 5 years ago?
Yes, absolutely. First of all, remember that I didn't come from the mainstream or feminist movements. I wasn't someone who focused exclusively on women's rights or was a member of a women's organization. I was a humanitarian worker. I was, in fact, a UN staff, which means, of course, that through my work with the UN Refugee Agency, I worked with a lot of women. I met a lot of women that have been displaced by conflict, war, natural disasters, and who have been also survivors of different kinds of violence against women. So, of course, I had a very good idea of the huge problems of inequality and discrimination that women face, and have seen different horrible things that women have faced. But I must tell you that there are issues that I have met through my work as a special rapporteur that I was not aware of. I was not aware of their scale, and there were others that I had heard of, but I have never thought about sort of in terms of how they constitute violence. So the issue of prostitution. Of course, I had heard about prostitution, but I wasn't aware of all the different policy approaches to prostitution. Surrogacy, the same thing. Gender identity and its relation to the rights of women and sex-based rights. So these are new things, yes.
Yes. So especially, so those three topics.
Yeah.
Are those topics that you felt have surprised you in terms of backlash as well? I know in particular from my experience, women's organizations who focus on all of those issues, prostitution, sex-based rights, but in particular, I suppose, sex-based rights, have been subjected to notorious forms of backlash. Were you surprised?
So
or maybe have you experienced?
No, let me first say that before becoming a special rapporteur, I was sort of aware of what a special rapporteur does for one reason, which is that the UN Refugee Agency engages in a very structured way with special rapporteurs, all of them, including the one on violence against women. And I actually met one of the former special rapporteurs when I was a staff in the field, because she happened to be visiting a country where I was based. But you don't know the ins and outs of this role, right? And I know that states and non-state actors are supposed to respect the special rapporteur and respect their independence and impartiality. So I assume that means that even when I have unpopular positions, that they would be engaged on in a respectful, constructive way.
Yes.
What I didn't expect was this avalanche of attacks, demonization, these deliberate also misrepresentation of things I say, this way of coalition building against me, this attempts to publicly shame and silence me and disinvite me. But then, of course, when you realize that the way I'm treated is the way other women are treated, that are vocal on issues that are important to women, then it stops surprising you. So I'm exactly being treated the way many women human rights defenders and activists are being treated. And my position as a special rapporteur actually didn't shield me against those attacks, which is something maybe I had expected, but actually didn't happen. So yeah.
Yes, that's shocking. Yeah, not even such an important role.
Yes.
Will be respected. Do you find that it's a similar kind of backlash orchestrated by the pro-prostitution lobby as it is by the anti-sex legislation lobby?
So look, of all the reports I have written, I have received backlash on, I would say, 4 reports. And I take this, in hindsight, as actually quite positive, in the sense that it means that I picked relevant issues.
Yes.
I picked timely issues that are complex, that required more visibility, and that required more human rights analysis. And the fact that the findings and recommendations on these issues echoed very widely, both positively and negatively, and were picked up by the media and are debated and discussed, and some of them also find themselves in parliaments and parliamentary discussions in a number of countries, is for me a good sign. Because that's precisely what I wanted to achieve with my reports, is to pick issues around which there was a lot of debate by societies, around which there was also some policy reflections, and offer those reports as a contribution to that debate. These topics were, the first one was the report I did on child custody and violence against women, and how the allegations of parental alienation were being weaponized by fathers primarily, who have had a history of domestic abuse, either against their partners, the women or former women, or their children. That received a lot of pushback by those that support the parental alienation industry and profit from it, whether they're experts, whether they are fathers, whether they're also just judges, people in the judicial sector, because there is like a whole kind of industry around it.
Interesting. Choice of words.
So that was one. The second is, of course, my report on prostitution, and my description of prostitution also as a system of violence and exploitation against women and girls, and my very clear support for the Nordic model as the most appropriate policy model to follow. And then there was, of course, the report on sex-based rights, which I presented in June this year, where I talked about the erasure of women and girls as a class, as humans that we have recognized have faced discrimination based on being female, and that when I speak of them being female, it means biologically female, and how there is a very concerted push to eliminate the consideration of sex as a factor, as the factor primarily on which women and girls were being discriminated. And that also the definition of gender is based, takes sex into account, because it's the roles and expectations that society has of men and women based on their sex in society. So it's not that it disregards it. So that was the third. And then most recently, surrogacy, my report on surrogacy. And my also similar finding that it's a system of exploitation and abuse, and that it should be abolished. And I recommend very much a Nordic model for abolishing surrogacy, similar to the Nordic model that exists for prostitution.
Interesting.
And I see actually a lot of similarities between the two systems, in fact. So these were primarily the four kind of issues that I have received a lot of backlash on, from states, from lobby groups, from civil society. But I want to say I've received a lot of support also, and enormous support. And in fact, these reports would not have been possible if it was not for the courageous and hard work and advocacy of many victims, whether they are women or children, or women's rights groups that are also working against the tide and are facing enormous pressures. But they have very diligently, relentlessly provided information, provided support, written letters in support of my work, and most importantly also supplied the evidence and the information I needed to do to produce empirically and legally sound reports. So
Yes, yeah. Do you feel like do you think staff at the UN are aware of this conflict between sex as a factor, basis of discrimination, and the gender identity as this new factor?
Yeah. So, the UN is a very big organism and also has many different organizations. Many of them have specific mandates that touch, obviously, on issues that I work with. All of them have to also advance the equality of women and girls.
Yes.
At the same time, and I think your listeners and viewers should know this, if they don't, I'm not a staff of the UN. And no mandate holder or special rapporteur is a staff. We are independent experts. We don't receive salaries from the UN. We do this work for free. And in fact, we are even able to write letters to the UN as well, and UN organizations, if we feel that certain policies or approaches they have taken are not in line with international standards. And we have done that. And I, for example, have written twice to the World Health Organization. And I know colleagues have also written other letters. So I have taken certain positions that I know a number of UN organizations at the leadership level may not agree with, even certain colleagues of mine, other rapporteurs. But I am supposed to work independently, and I represent my independent position. While, of course, the UN may have its own views and disagreements, including the Office of the High Commissioner for Human Rights, what is important is that they continue to respect my right to think independently and say what I think. Having said that, I have received emails from UN staff on a number of issues where they have very quietly and discreetly told me that they like very much the work that I do, the positions I take, that they cannot say so publicly because they are afraid that there would be repercussions. that some of them have said, that they are unable to express the same views in their workspace, but that basically keep going, And I know, of course, to be very fair, that there are other UN staff that, of course, take issues with my positions, even on a personal level. So you have everything under the sun, basically.
Yes. I've always been fascinated by the variety of insight people will have on this issue.
Yes.
And the changes people will have in their perception.
Yes.
Yes, depending on what kind of information they are presented with. And I think it's so amazing that you are in a position where you can collect all this evidence,
yes,
and present it. I wanted to ask you, because there is a lot of confusion,
yes,
about if it matters that gender identity is included in certain subsections or certain phrases,
yes,
in human rights instruments. If it really matters. There's also confusion whether or not these changes means that the category of sex has been expanded.
Yeah. So look, as I say in my report on sex-based violence, which I presented in June, there is no international definition for gender identity that is sort of unanimously recognized. However, I do believe that it is a human right to have a gender identity if you want to have a gender identity that is different from the sex you were born with. If this is something you have, that is, you have a right to express it and assume it, which is different from saying that everybody has a gender identity. Like I'm, for example, a woman because I am a woman, because I'm an adult, biological female. I don't feel I have a gender identity of a woman, and I know many women and men that wouldn't use gender identity to define themselves. So they also have a right not to have a gender identity. At the same time, there is no right in international human rights law to there is no right in international human rights law for the right to gender identity to override all other considerations, including the rights you have to non-discrimination based on your sex. So where rights based on sex and rights based on gender identity may clash, nothing in human rights law says that sex should be subordinated to gender identity considerations. And that's the main point that I've said in my report. And women to be treated equally as females is and not to be discriminated against based on their sex is something that we see in all major international human rights instruments. And the reference to sex there is clear. Sex means biological sex. So then the sort of mutations of that definition that people have made after they've said, oh, sex is legal sex but not biological. There is no basis for that in international human rights law.
No.
Yeah. And I just want to say that a clash between rights and rights holders is very common in international human rights law. And it's our role as lawmakers and as human rights experts to treat that clash and to therefore discuss that and to make sense out of it, yeah. And why do I say this? Because therefore it is very normal that it's an area for discussion and for debate. So all these years when we've seen that, oh, you cannot debate this, it's hateful. No, human rights issues are complex by definition, and we must debate them, and we must discuss where do the limits of each right begin and end. For example, the issue of freedom of expression, you know. For years, decades, there's been a discussion, what is my right to say and where is the limit of that if it's hate speech or, you know, where can it be considered hate speech or incitement to hatred? You know, we've had this for years, this kind of debate, which means that you don't have an unlimited freedom of speech. You know, you have to, there are limits to it.
Yes.
And just to come back to also your question, so my main assertion in my report is there's been a deliberate attempt to erase sex as a central factor in the experiences of women and girls, to also manipulate the language, the women-specific language, and make everything sex neutral and gender neutral, and to conflate the terms of sex, gender identity, so therefore to make it all one. And therefore governments, particularly in the West and in Latin America, I would say, and in some countries in Asia, but they are collecting, it's difficult to tell what data they are collecting under sex. They should be collecting data that says whether somebody is biologically male or female, but they're collecting, in fact, not that, but it could be somebody's gender identity as female, it could be somebody, you know, so it's a salad. And that has huge implications in the sense that it's impossible for us anymore to be able to monitor this phenomenon of male violence against women, because the perpetrator is not anymore listed as being biologically male, and also the victim is not anymore clearly biologically female. And also the policies, therefore, and the budgets are not going to address the male violence against women. And so under gender responsive policies, we have also policies that target males who identify as women, not just women. And I'm not saying that males identifying as women should not receive attention, should not receive support if they have experienced violence and discrimination, but they should be treated under a separate category. Because also the most compassionate, right thing to do is to also recognize the intersection of their own biological sex with other considerations. So we need to think about that for them as well in the response, particularly health, access to health services. If a male who identifies as a woman walks through the door of a health service provider and it's nowhere listed what their biological sex is, that they are male, then I may give them even the wrong kind of attention or services. We have all heard about stories of trans men being, you know, attended to, and because the paper doesn't say anywhere that they're biologically female, the health provider doesn't check if they are pregnant. And we have seen stories where, you know, an abortion happened or by mistake, because that person, that woman didn't say that she in fact is a female. Irrespective of how she identifies, you know, nobody is arguing about her right to identify as a man or not to identify as a woman. But there's nothing hateful about asking or having the data on her biological sex. And sorry, there's one other issue I want to mention.
Yes.
Because when we talk about the intersection of sex and gender identity, and as I said in my report, in fact, one group of transgender persons that I feel is completely invisible and doesn't receive the attention it needs, and we know very little about them, is women who don't identify as women. Either they might be, they identify as men or non-binary, or
popular category.
We don't know anything about them. They're completely invisible. We don't know if they face violence as being trans men. We don't know if they are content, happy in their lives. We don't know if they experience other forms of discrimination because they are treated as men. And whenever the conversations in particular international fora about transgender persons happens, it's always about males who identify as women, but never about women who don't identify as women.
So it's a real female erasure in like
Absolutely.
literal and
Yes. And
legal sense.
it's my sincere hope that they recognize that by emphasizing also the intersection of their female sex with their gender identity, we are trying to, or I'm trying to also shed light on their issues, that it's not disrespectful or hateful towards them as their gender identity, to also bring them under the fold of women and women issues. They actually fall under the purview of CEDAW, in my view, and international human rights law specific to women, because they're still women, even if their gender identity is not that of women.
Well, yes, exactly. Specifically, from what I've understood, gender identity was first introduced in the General Recommendation number 19. It said then other factors that may affect women, like sexual orientation, gender identity, race, age, and disability. I think that was the sentence. And it's been commonly assumed. I think at the time it was obviously assumed that they were talking about women, women who may use different gender identities in a way to not lose them from this protection of the CEDAW or from within that fold. But now it is in some circumstances being presented as ground zero of CEDAW for having done the opposite, basically, included in. But what you're saying is women who identify out of their sex may face sex-based discriminations that become invisible. Invisible to them and to the policies.
Invisible to governments, to policymakers. Look, so the CEDAW general recommendations, if I understand, has used different configurations or terminology. Has used in some, for example, women that are transgender, but mostly it has used, as you said, transgender women. Now, as I said in my report, it would be useful for the CEDAW committee to clarify what it actually means. Now, there is, however, a challenge, which is that in public discourse all over the world now, the term transgender women refers actually, when we mention it, it immediately evokes the image of a male who identifies as a woman.
Yes.
So it's, even if, let's say, tomorrow CEDAW were to clarify that, it's still an issue that has gone so far.
Yes.
It's going to be difficult, to bring it back. On the other hand, I find it quite interesting that, the CEDAW Convention has an optional protocol under which you can bring individual cases to the CEDAW committee. It's quite telling that until now, CEDAW has never dealt with or admitted a case of a male identifying as a woman, but it has, at least on one occasion, treated and issued a decision on a case of a gender non-conforming woman. Now, it's not that case, and I forget which country it was. It wasn't entirely clear if we're talking about a woman who doesn't identify as a woman, or a lesbian, or it has obviously treated lesbians, also cases of lesbian women very clearly. But there was, I think it was, I'm trying to remember which case, but there was a gender non-conforming woman which means she could have identified also as being male. I have to get back to that case, but
yes, but but it is telling.
It is telling we have not had a male who identifies as. That said, in many country reviews, it has CEDAW, and that has to be said, has passed, has made conclusive remarks, in which it had, I think, welcomed self-ID, and also given the impression that it is talking about males identifying as well. So it's not a uniform kind of position over the years, and remember that the CEDAW members also change every so often.
Yeah, because it's a living system. It's like a living, evolving.
Yes, there's a revolving door. The representatives that are elected change also.
How important are women's advocacy?
Yeah.
For the development of different protocols, or is it important that women speak up about issues that affect their lives?
Yes, and I think a lot of women do. So it's not for the lack of women speaking up. It's the problem is that they're often marginalized, and that's one of the things also I've spoken about, is that consulting even your own women organizations as a state has become often a box-ticking exercises. So especially when they want to review or reform legislations, you get the feeling that it happens often so quickly and without proper debate, and then they don't consult women sufficiently or meaningfully. Women's organizations in many countries have also the challenge that I have, which is that they increasingly end up with less resources. So they have less and less resources, also to participate, to be present, to be heard. And then, many of them, unfortunately, don't also know how to use the UN system. Like many of them don't also know how to use the special procedures of the Human Rights Council, so the Special Rapporteurs, which is also very labor intensive. If you want to contribute to a report, if you want to bring individual cases to the attention of my mandate, for example, that also requires a lot of work. But that's why on my visits to countries, I make it a point to explain also to the women I meet and the organizations I meet how I can be helpful to them and how they can use my mandate. Because I've found out that many don't know. All over the world, they don't know how to use their mandate.
Yes. Yeah, it's I suppose it might seem a bit esoteric to a lot of people.
Just they have no knowledge, and sometimes it can be something as simple as the language issue. Others it can be they live in remote areas. Another is that they're really dealing with very life-threatening existential issues.
Yes.
So writing to a rapporteur, in a way, as you said, could seem like as a very esoteric thing. Like I'm trying not to get killed. I don't have time to write to a rapporteur sitting in X place in the world, and they don't see the immediate benefit. And often, by the way, not often, but in many circumstances, there might not be an immediate consequence, or we have to be honest about that as well. I might not be able to stop a certain violation or situation, but it's very important to document and to leave it on record, because our reports and letters are public, and the power comes from that, And I tell you very honestly, if it wasn't for the fact that women organizations spoke out on all these issues I said, it would have been impossible for me to do my reports, because then it would have been perfectly normal to say, well, there's no disagreement on this, and the other side would have been able to just present things as issues of consensus. And that's why also they're angry with me that I have interrupted these plans of presenting a perfect position, unanimous position on certain issues,
Yes.
which we know don't enjoy consensus.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. But you mentioned that your next project will be on mothers.
Yes.
This has been something we've worked a lot on here in Norway.
Yeah.
Have you seen? Yeah, because we've also seen these efforts to gender neutralize language and
Yes.
to expand reproductive arenas.
Yeah.
Where again women are made invisible via the language. And
Yes.
repeatedly referred to as via sexual capacity
Yes.
or reproductive organs or which is why do you feel it's important to focus on mothers next?
Okay, so first of all, I agree with you on the terminology. I'm very alarmed by this deliberate attempt to erase women-specific language. You see this, particularly in the way we refer to the reproductive capacities of women.
Yeah.
Whether it's, even something as basic as breastfeeding, there's references to chest feeding. There is the issue of how we refer to surrogate mothers, ovens, gestational carriers, how we refer to prostituted women, sex workers. So it's not only to erase the specific femaleness, but also the specific forms of violence that females experience. So to sanitize that. Even something that is also so basic and natural, like sexual orientation. You cannot change that; it's innate. Trying to change the definition of what lesbians are. So it's any male who identifies as a woman who is attracted to another woman, wants to be included. Yes.
Non-males loving non-males.
Yes, exactly.
Like I don't.
Yes, I was horrified when I saw this in the Webster dictionary. I just couldn't believe my eyes.
Yeah.
The first time I saw this, I thought it was a joke. I honestly went and Googled it myself because I was like, there's no way that a dictionary just referred to a group of women like this.
Non-men.
Especially when the equivalent of gays was still men loving men.
Yes,
right?
yeah.
So, but yes, coming back to the question, so I feel that, we often talk about intersectionality, we talk about the fact that certain groups of women or women face particular discrimination, violence, challenges, etc. They have their specific needs by virtue of their background and the intersection of different factors. And motherhood is so, let's say, it's such a common feature among women, but it seems that the mandate never dealt with them as a group. Of course, there have been references to mothers and pregnant women in different reports, not just of my mandate, but other. But I do feel that there's a need to focus on it also because in the human rights lingo and the world, there has been a lot of attention on the right of women and girls for abortion, bodily autonomy, blah, 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 which, of course, is important. But it's like there's almost a feeling that this is the only thing that matters. What about women who want to be mothers and want to carry a pregnancy to term?
Yes.
What about them?
Yeah.
What about those that have delivered children, brought children into this world? It seemed to me such an omission, right? Especially that, of course, over the almost 5 years that I've been a mandate holder, or 4.5 years, I've also now come in contact with a lot of mothers all over the world and understood their specific challenges and experiences, and have brought that also into some of my reports. But I think it would be good to have a standalone report, particularly that now also in many countries, there's a lot of discussion, debates about, the declining fertility rates and how do we deal with that. And some countries have also adopted certain policies to make it easier for women to become mothers. Like in Eastern Europe, in terms of taxation. So I think it would be a timely issue to examine.
Yes. I think I realized a few years ago that women refugees don't have a human right not to be separated from their children.
They do.
They do?
They do, but as you know, in resettlement policies, especially by Western countries, there are a lot of very, I want to say, harsh rules about when you can reunify your family and how you can. So there's, for example, cutoff dates, only for minors. So, for example, if your child is over 18 years old, the country, the country to which they are being resettled can refuse for you to bring over your child. They have to apply separately, independently. And I always found that very harsh, to be honest, because it's, of course, your family is your family. It doesn't stop at the moment. It doesn't start from your son stops or your daughter stops being your child. It doesn't stop being your child when they are older than 18.
No.
And it's also a very Western way of looking at family, because in many cultures, you will continue to live with your parents until you get married.
Yes.
It's just how it is, right? And so they are part of literally your family household.
Yes.
Until they get married, and then they are separated if this family gets resettled, because they're not considered to be part of your primary household.
So it's very divide and conquer, like it's very individualized, I suppose.
It's caused a lot of heartache and separations. And of course, then once they get into the country, they try to bring them over, but it doesn't always work, huh?
No. That's interesting. So you're not really a fan of do you feel like it's precise to call people who are menstruating, chest feeding, birthers?
No,
by their bodily functions.
No, it's contrary to human rights standards, and that's what I tried to say in my report. Also, how can you ever advocate, defend, support people you cannot define? Nobody would ever think of calling men anything but men, right? I'm sure men would be very upset by that.
Absolutely. No, absolutely.
And even, I've never understood this issue about birthers or birthing persons, because even if we are saying that we need to be considerate of females who don't identify as female, who might get pregnant, what is the percentage we're talking about? What is it? 1%, 2%, 5%? Therefore, you erase the entire 95%.
It's a bit excessive, maybe. And maybe even though definitely. It's precise, it's something is lost in that type of language.
There's still the majority of women that are still women, and they are women, 100% they are women, but
let's see if we have some final questions or it's interesting that this is your future endeavor. So Norwegian women may take this opportunity to inform your report.
Please do, because as I said in a meeting today, I don't get enough input. Actually, I hardly get any input from women's organizations of victims in Norway.
No.
And so I need that in order to reflect your specific challenges But also good practice, by the way. I mean, our reports don't only focus on the gaps and the challenges. We do also mention good practice. So if there's good laws or policies adopted, I like to mention them to also help other countries learn from them. So
yeah,
it's not
the good
only
and the bad.
only the bad and the ugly, you know.
Yeah, they can have all the good
Yeah.
and all the bad.
Yes, exactly.
And it's
So please do.
Yes.
Please do send that, and yeah, la lucha continua.
yeah, wonderful.
Yeah.
Yes, well. Oh, and then finally, how can women follow your work
Yeah.
and support your work?
Yeah.
You said you're not being salaried. You don't.
No.
You're
No.
working for free.
Yes.
Is that a legal obligation you have as a
No,
special
I
rapporteur
mean
that
it comes with the job. We all know when we signed up on this that I signed up to this that it would be not paid. Now I do have colleagues that have a day job and do this on the side. I've tried to do this in the beginning, the first maybe 6 to 8 months. I had maybe a very particular challenge as well, which is that as a special rapporteur, I cannot continue to do consultancies for the UN, which is my main income, or used to be my main income, because it was seen as a conflict of interest. So, and also I realized with time that if I wanted to really do a good job as a mandate holder, I couldn't do both. So I focused specifically on this, and I must say I have a partner who's very supportive and who also agreed to therefore take the hit for one of us stopping work, and I am immensely grateful and appreciative of that. But it's not something I take for granted, that my husband would agree to be the only income earner for so many years. But also I have over the years benefited from some fantastic interns and also clinics, legal clinics of some universities that have supported me either with the letters, like helped me draft the letters, or also provide support to the reports. And I have not received additional money from states. In fact, I'm going to say that there's been one country, I'm not going to name it, but that has discontinued its funding to my mandate because of the positions I took on gender identity. But there have been a couple of countries, states that have provided me money in the last few years, and that has been immensely helpful to be able to hire consultants and also travel. And yes, these clinics that I collaborate with have also been incredibly helpful. And then also women organizations that have, like me, helped me for free. I provided input, done support, sometimes also just advocated for my safety and my ability to do my work. And it was very important that the world also heard that I was not alone. So, it's been very much a teamwork. So I don't feel alone. And yeah.
Okay, but that's great. So they will find you on
Yeah, they
X?
can find me on X, on Blue Sky, on LinkedIn. So I publish all the letters that I write once they become public. I publish all the calls for input ahead of my thematic reports. And I tweet regularly, and also my press releases. So please, follow me there.
Wonderful. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.